Hello, welcome to Coffee with Kathleen. I have my Choose Love mug today because I think we all need to do a little more of that. And I have some really, really exciting news today. I have chosen not just one person I love, but two people I love to be on Coffee with Kathleen today. And I'm super excited to introduce you to them. So now you see who they are. I've got Calyx Embry and Jacob Shea. And here's the fun part. They're both on my team. Cheers, you guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yay, cute cups, cute cups. They're both on one of my teams. Jacob is on the marketing team and Calyx is on the consumer engagement chat team. And they were both promoted at the start of this year. Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I think it's fun to chat with people who are active in the process of growing their careers and having them talk about how they're thinking about that, how they're doing that, where they're going, all of that. So today we are going to get into it. Calyx, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and where you're going?
Sure. So like Kathleen mentioned, I'm on the consumer engagement chat team. I am now a senior consumer engagement specialist as of this year. And a little bit about what we do, or I'm sorry, I missed that part.
Yeah.
So we help customers on a daily basis. We make sure that our partners' customers are taken care of. We represent RepairPal as best as we can. And I've been happily doing this for going on 4 years now.
Wow, 4 years. Time flies when you're having fun. So what did you do that was different in this last year or so? Or what have you been building toward that you think was the extra sauce that got you to your senior title designation?
It was a lot. It did start with a lot of confusion at first, but I'm thankful for my leaders. I know, Kathleen, I spoke with you as well. I just put myself in every avenue I could, and I used every resource available. I talked to a Bravely coach. We had LinkedIn Learning courses. There was even some Yelp workshops that were about growth and career. One thing that really stood out was they mentioned visibility. So anywhere I could just insert myself, network, ask questions. That's what I did. I just put myself out there, was ready for anything, and it brought me here. It brought me here somehow. But it's really just using all the resources available to us.
Yeah, I do think that's, it is wild to me. And you both probably saw toward the end of the year where I was like pushing people because at Yelp, they're very generous. We do have a variety of resources like Calyx was mentioning that are available to us that we could take advantage of. And then we also get like a little budget that we can spend on our own personal development every or professional, personal, whatever. It's all mixed together, right? But like that we can spend every year. And I was really astonished that such a high percentage of my organization hadn't used that budget coming into the end of the year. And it's kind of a use it or lose it budget. Now, of course, you get a new budget at the start of the year, but there's no reason to let that go by the wayside. I personally am still investing in my own development as well. I more than spend my budget. I spend out of pocket as well because my own growth and development is important, both from like a setting an example perspective, but also because I got places I'm going, things I want to do. Right. So what about you, Jacob? What group are you in and what did you achieve this year?
Yeah. So I'm part of the marketing group. I've been here for about 4 years as well now in February. So very exciting. And I think this year, more than like things that I achieved is just like switching up my mindset a little bit and, you know, trying to just be more intentional about what I'm doing and be more intentional about how I show up and, you know, trying to put myself in situations that might make me a little uncomfortable so that I can, grow and learn a little bit, and just trying to show up like as the best version of myself, or at least a good version of myself every day. And I think that's kind of the active effort has helped me get to this new role.
Yes. And so what was one or two specific things that you did this past year that were sort of just on the outskirts of your comfort zone?
Yeah, I would say a big one was just attending a couple different conferences that I hadn't been to before. So I went to an ACC conference. So Sheila, one of my teammates, she's super big in the industry, and like she knows a lot of people, and she put me onto this conference. I think it was in I don't remember where it was this year. I think right outside of Detroit.
Yes.
Yes. I forget, because I think they were in Cleveland last year. But yeah, it was a great conference, and it was really good on like industry specific, marketing and communication specific topics, which are right where I live now. And just getting to like meet a bunch of other people who are in the automotive aftermarket industry was great for me. And now I'm a part of it. I'm on the marketing committee for ACC. So it's
I didn't even know that. Congrats.
Thank you. Yep. And so I'm just I think putting myself out there to go there. I also went to the HubSpot conference, which is a tool that we use in marketing, and it's a huge one, and it's a massive conference. And going there, and I went there and just like networked. I went to a bunch of like after conference events and stuff like that, and just tried to learn as much as I can in these learning sessions. And I think those were some areas. And then also just work-wise, taking on new projects, especially going through an acquisition and coming into the new year at Yelp now, trying to just like meet people and put myself in as many places as they can where, our new coworkers are, and work with some of the people who were at Yelp, and where we just, get to meet as many people as possible.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's it's challenging in a virtual environment, like to meet a lot of people. I found it challenging as well, because of course we went from being a company of about 90 people to being in an environment with 5,000 people. And sometimes I get in meetings and I'm like, oh, let's introduce, ourselves. And people are like, Kathleen, we all met you already. I'm like, oh my God. I'm forgetting, because I've been in so many meetings with so many people. But not everybody in every role has as much, advantage of having exposure. And so sometimes you have to be a little bit more intentional about, who you're going to meet and who you're going to talk to, and how you're going to do that. So actually, I know Calyx, you've done quite a bit of that this year internally with the 5,000 other people that work at Yelp. So explain how you are thinking about that and what you did.
Yeah, so I'll talk about internal, but before that, I do want to piggyback off of Jacob. Shout out to Sheila. This is my second year in the volunteering for women in auto care on their social media team. So that's been fun. And I did get to go to their conference last year as well. So conferencing up, very, very fun. So great to network. So shout out to that. And then internally, so I was looking into training and development as my role in senior consumer engagement. That's part of the things that I do, part of the work that I do. I give the presentations, I see what our best practices, I look at quality assurance and give feedback to the team as best as I can. And I didn't really know where to start. But luckily with Yelp, they have their own learning and development team. So I just shot my shot during a presentation that they were giving. Like they talked about visibility again. And I just said, hey, my name is Calyx at the end of the meeting in front of everyone there. And I would love to talk to you and ask questions. I was able to develop a relationship with them and just set up meetings with their team. They're so welcoming. I met with 2 different people and got advice on how they do things. And I told them what I did for work. And every time I had a presentation, I kind of let them know, got some feedback, got some pointers. And it's been super helpful. I think it's definitely a fundamental part of how I got here.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Honestly, I was always a pretty effective individual contributor. But if I had done something different at the start of my career, I think that thing would have been to be more engaged with my industry sooner, whatever that was, which used to be something totally different than automotive. And secondly, I would have more intentionally built community versus just waiting for the people who I regularly have to be in project meetings with or whatever. I would have worked to build connections outside of that sooner because the rewards of that are really just tremendous. So, Jacob, you've taken on people management for the first time, and that's obviously a really nice step forward that a lot of people encounter in their careers and things like that. So how are you thinking about that and what you need to do to resource yourself for that challenge moving forward?
Yeah. So it's like a whole new phase of my career, I'd say. So I've been an individual contributor for so long, and I think I got good at that. And now I'm like, it's kind of like starting again, and with being a people manager. And I've been seeing a Bravely coach as well, which is like a career coach that the company is kind enough to offer. And so I've been doing that for a while, and just trying to learn as much as I can there, learn as much as I can from my managers and my leadership, like you, for example, Kathleen and Jamie, who has been a great resource for me. And then just trying to show up as like a calm and like a steady presence, and just be there to support, try to be the best I can be at lifting people up and trying to be a positive force for my team. So I think that's the biggest thing that I'm trying to go into this with. And I know there's a lot of like intricacies and other things that are going to come along, but that's like where I'm starting.
It's good to have something that you naturally embody that's already a strength for you to be your anchor point as you think about building outward from your career. A lot of times as humans, like we hyper focus on like the what's wrong of it all and the thing that we need to fix, whatever the thing is, rather than sort of saying, here's who I am as a person, here's how I show up, here's what my strength is, and building or using that as a foundation. So I think that's very smart of you, because you naturally have that very sort of calm, steady, wise presence. And I think it's marvelous that you're using that as your leadership anchor, so to speak. I think you're going to go a long way with that. I've had to develop my calm, steady part because I'm much more of this sort of, excited, kind of person. And so obviously, that calm is actually what's often needed in group situations and things like that. And it takes some of the anxiety out for others and allows people to just really show up at work. So I'm looking forward to that. So Calyx, what are you going to be using as kind of your foundation this year as you think about, obviously you're not stopping here at senior consumer engagement, right? Like this is just step one or promotion one of many that I see as potential for you in your future. Wow. So what are you leaning into this year?
This year, I want to continue to be a lifelong learner. Starting with this role now, whatever skills I need to really get it under my belt and nail it, get the experience. That's what I'm going to look into. Of course, use those developmental funds. I want to take a different route this year. I know last year I went to women in auto care. This year, I know it's still on the table, but I really want to look more into my role and other skills that I could use to sharpen it up and give back to the team. That's typically how I'll see growth. How can I give back? And then what skills can I sharpen up to make sure that I'm doing that consistently? From there, we'll see. I do want to take this year to really get settled in and then go from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think, the thing that, I have to say, it just annoys me. So I'm just going to say it annoys me. The thing that annoys me at times is that we do have such a resource-rich environment at this point, even more so than we used to, although at RepairPal we did, try to offer resources and things like that. And a lot of times I hear from people that really want to be promoted or they want that next thing. And maybe we can't see yet what the opportunity is going to be. And so because they don't have a very specific thing that they're working toward or that they can immediately see, they don't lean into the development. They don't try hard. They don't do these things. And they say, well, that's because you don't have anything for me. And so why would I do the extra work if I'm not, paid to do it? Or why would I develop myself or whatever? But I look at the self-development as the part that's portable, right? So it's not about getting you to do more work for the same pay. I think that's BS too. I don't want, necessarily to be promoting that kind of hustle culture per se. But I do think that when you hustle on your own behalf to develop your own skills and your own capabilities and the way that you show up for your team and all of that to improve your presence, so to speak, that's portable. You get to take that with you wherever you might find yourself next, whether here or someplace else, right? And I personally, I'm also a lifelong learner. I love the little dopamine hits I get when I figure something out or I unlock that next thing. So for me, the aha moment is everything. And I do it just for its own sake. What would you say is your motivation to keep growing, Jacob?
Yeah, I would say it's tough because I've never really had like a plan for how my career is going to go. I've kind of just like, focused on the things that energize me. And like, I find myself being in a good environment here that I really enjoy and that I'm like passionate about. And I think that's something that has energized me and is one of the reasons why I've been successful here. And I think, so I guess what motivates me is internally, I think I have an intrinsic motivation that I just want to like, I want to do a good job and I want to, continue learning and continue growing and just like be the best version of myself that I can be. And then there's obviously external factors too. Like, you want to be have a safety net. You want to be like good externally and have all of that. But I think like the main thing for me is just, wanting to show up and be good at what I do and also enjoy what I do and feel some sense of passion towards my work, not just like be working to work. So
good. That's awesome. And Calyx, you talked a little bit about like the great relationship that you have with your leadership, which I'm not talking about me, everybody. She doesn't work directly for me. So this isn't a self-aggrandizing thing. But talk to me a little bit about how you've built that relationship and how you've helped people to work specifically with you.
Sure. So first, shout out to Isha. Awesome manager. She does allow me to, especially last year, do what I want to do as far as presenting to the team or ideas. I'm comfortable enough, thankfully, to go to her and say, hey, I'm really interested in this. I think the team would benefit in it. Is it all right if we explore this a little bit more? A part of that does take courage too, because the worst that they could say is no. That's what I tell myself in any situation. If I need to ask for something or I got to put myself out there, the worst that they could say is no, hopefully. So just saying, hey, can we present to this team? Is this something I can explore? Or I have these skills that I'd like to explore. Is there a way that I can present it, or am I allowed to do that? Typically, the answer so far has been yes. Even with a book club, Kathleen, thank you for allowing us to have a book club in the organization. Just something I wanted to do for fun and practice facilitation. It's another skill that comes with where I want to grow. And I thought it was an awesome opportunity to just practice that skill in front of a live audience and get feedback. So that's one thing I would say, just keep asking for feedback also. And have the courage to just ask.
Well, and it does take courage to ask for feedback, because sometimes when we ask for feedback, what we're really saying is, love me, tell me good things about me. And then sometimes we hear things that we don't want to hear. And even as far along as I am in my career, and knowing how useful feedback is, it still requires courage. So some people know, some people might not, but I'm back in school doing a master's degree program. I'm doing a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing. And that's a very new thing for me to accept feedback about. I will tell you right now, I do not love getting feedback about my writing. When somebody is like, oh, I didn't like this phrase, or the end didn't tie to the beginning for me, or I'm like, you just don't get it. You don't get me. Yeah. You know, like that is I have an internal, we have a lot of internal voices. One of my internal voices is a brat. Is such a brat.
That's me.
She's probably about 4 years old, and she's the worst. And she's like, I don't like that. I'm like, you don't get me, you know, whatever. And so, and I hear her sounding off sometimes when I'm starting to get this input about like these things that I've written or whatever. And so I have to like, you know, give my inner brat a cookie and, you know, right. And then I have to like let my wiser self take over and be like, okay, what is there in this feedback that's here for me to take on, right? You asked for this, you paid for this, you're paying for this input, right? And so, but we all have those moments where, yeah, we're really told something that just doesn't immediately resonate, or that cuts us to the core of like, you know, that wasn't what we were expecting to hear. We tried so hard and something just didn't work, or it didn't work for that person in that moment, or whatever the thing is, right? So getting feedback, it's so necessary, but really tough sometimes. And sometimes it's also lovely because then people are like, oh, what a beautiful thing, you know, whatever. That part is nice. I think the thing about feedback that helps me is I try not to over-identify with it, either positive or negative. So when people are saying, oh, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever read, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I try not to overly identify or overly love that. And then at the same token, if someone's like, yeah, this was horrible, I didn't like it at all, which is not really how they phrase it, by the way, either. Everybody's much nicer than that. But even still, if that's the gist that I'm taking away, I just say, what is there in this for me? And I take that part of it and then kind of leave the rest. How do you think about feedback, Jacob? Now you're going to have to not only be the recipient of it still, right. It never goes away, but you're also going to have to be the deliverer of it.
Yeah. I think being the recipient of it is, like you said, it can be hard sometimes. It can also be great sometimes, depending on what the feedback is. But I think like at the end of the day, like the bad feedback is a learning opportunity, even though it's hard to take it like that in the moment. And I think trying to deliver it in that way too, and delivering it in a way that's positive and like, hey, like maybe this didn't work this time, but like this was a good portion of it, or this was a really good thought. Let's see how we can use that and like turn it around a little bit. Like that always works on me. So I think like that'll be a way that like I would approach it in the future. And I also think like, yeah, it's a good learning opportunity always. So as long as like you agree with the feedback to some extent, or you think it's like valid feedback. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some of the toughest times, the toughest things we hear, the toughest, you know, well, I do a lot of running. So the toughest runs I do or whatever, all of the really hard things are the things that we, you know, learn the most, or that end up being the most important training for what comes next. So keeping that in mind is super helpful. So, you know, what else I think would be super helpful is if each of you shared, if someone wanted to have amazing emerging leaders like the two of you on their team, you've talked a lot about like, you know, kind of having a place now where you feel comfortable and you feel safe to succeed, and that's created some conditions for your success. What advice would you give to other business leaders who might be watching this and who might be thinking about wanting to create a better environment for people to be successful? What advice would you give them, Calyx?
I would definitely say to listen. My leaders have been amazing at just taking the time to listen, and almost like receiving feedback. Like you mentioned, it's neutral. It's neither good nor bad. Listen, take it into account, digest it, and see how you can turn things around. That's really it. Keep it neutral. Listen to your team. And then from there, if there's sometimes I can't figure out certain things, or I can't figure out certain pain points, but the feedback of, oh, hey, this might help, and then creating a plan for your team to go towards it and reach that goal. I think just baby steps, that helps overall, but keep it calm, keep it neutral, like you mentioned.
If somebody, and I'll add, if somebody smart like Calyx says stuff, the other thing I heard was just say yes to it. Yeah, just say yes a lot. And because what happens from that is amazing. Like, I said yes to book club. Well, look, I love to read. So selfishly is a very easy thing for me to say yes to. And the fact that people actually want to participate in a book club is awesome, because I've done these things before and then had very few people show up to it or whatever, which always, feels depressing, because I'm like, oh, I'm the only one who read the dang book or whatever. So we have so many people raising their hand right now. That's awesome. But also, when you first facilitated the first one, I was like, wow, this girl is good at facilitating. It was, I had no idea exactly what to expect. Some people are better or more dynamic than others when it comes to running that sort of thing. But you killed it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
And so what about you, Jacob? What creates the conditions for a leader like you to succeed?
Yeah, I think trust is a big one, like leadership, having trust in the people, like the other employees, to like just do a good job and to take things on, and not to to let them fail, not make them afraid of failure. I think RepairPal's always done a great job of that. It's like, all right, we're gonna, like, you can try something. You can, if you have a great idea, try it, see how it goes. Like, and if you fail, it's a learning point for you. And I think that's been big for me. I've worked in both environments where, like, if you feel like you fail, like it's like the end of the world, and then environments where like you feel like you can really be a little bit more courageous, and you can take on a little bit more, and you can like take risks and say yes to opportunities, because if it doesn't work out and you're not and you don't do as well at it as you thought you would or as you wanted to, like, it's not the end of the world. Like, I think that's the biggest thing for me. That's like what I've noticed in my career, what distinguishes a good place versus a bad place for me to work.
Yeah. And honestly, if no one is failing at anything, or if we're not trying experiments that don't work, or however we're defining failure, then we are not pushing it far enough. I mean, and I think it's really a question of thinking about what can't fail and what can. Right. I mean, so if there's something that's really precise that people are counting on you to deliver, like I used to be in money movement, for example, we couldn't just fail to send, a $2 billion file overnight or something like that. Yeah. But around all of that, especially when you lead creative teams like marketing, or when you're thinking about product, or you're thinking about these other things, I think it's perfectly fine to fail, and you want to fail, because that's how you learn like what your customers want, or what they find most compelling, or what's going to be interesting, what you can get away with. In some cases, everybody knows I like a good cheeky subject line. So I've occasionally pushed the envelope of that. But yeah, that's how you figure it out. So if we're not creating systems where failure is built in as part of like that, I think we're really going to be missing out on a lot of what people might be able to otherwise, generate or create or do. Totally. The greatest of human endeavors is our ability to fail and come back from it. So I appreciate that. So has there been anything that you learned from a failure?
Yeah, I've learned, I think, a lot from failures. I think back to like early on in my career, where I think I just like there's situations where I didn't love what I was doing necessarily, and that caused me to I made the choice to not put in give my all, or put in as much effort as I would in now. And I think like learning that and like seeing how like that went, and then from that point forward, like kind of changing how I approach work and like trying to become more passionate about what I do has really helped me. So, and it took me almost getting to a point where I was like, okay, do I want to do marketing forever? And, you know, I hit that point, and then I was like, okay, I got another job. I took it. It ended up being a great opportunity. It was the job before this. And, you know, I had a great leader who really trusted me with things. And from that point forward, I was like, okay, I'm going to like really embrace this, really learn as much as I can. And I don't know if I would have like been as passionate about it if it wasn't for like that moment where I was like, okay, is this what I want to do? I think that like that moment of almost like not wanting to do it made me more passionate about it. And since then, I think it's been a whole different ballgame.
Nice. I love that. Any last piece of advice, Calyx, you have for our viewers?
Yes. Just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Kind of like I mentioned before, don't be afraid to ask. The worst they could say is no. And just keep learning as much as you can. If you don't know what you need to learn, pick up anything, research anything, and see if it takes you anywhere.
Yeah, try it on. All right. Well, thank you. It's been so fun chatting with you two. I've learned a ton from you. I'm excited to watch where you go, what you do, and for us to keep learning every day. I'm super lucky. Cheers.
Thanks so much.
Cheers. Thank you for having us.